What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training. And today we're going to be breaking down some Oklahoma wide receiver versus DB one-on-one. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver or a quarterback and would like to train with us this offseason, we are traveling out to 5 more states for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. Our next 3 camps in Austin, Seattle, and New Jersey are all completely sold out, and we will sell out our Denver and Los Angeles camps. So if you guys are local to Denver and Los Angeles, California, would like to train with us, check out that very first link in the description below. That's where you can sign up and get access to all the information. Also in July, fellas, if you are a quarterback or wide receiver coach, we are having 2 coaching clinics. So check out that very first link in the description below as well for information on that. Let's get started with this video. So now, first things first here, we're going to be talking about a fade route versus this inside shade off man coverage. So everybody knows that when we have press coverage, that's ideal for a fade route. But what do we do when we have off coverage, or maybe we have zone coverage? How do I run a fade in that specific situation? So let's play this clip full speed, then we'll break it down. So this wide receiver shows a perfect example of a move called a vertical set. So a vertical set is pretty much something that you would want to use anytime you have to run a fade and this DB is off, whether he's outside shade, whether he's head up, or whether he is inside shade. Essentially what it's doing is it's setting you back up vertical, hence the name, right? So let's talk about why he decides to use this move. Because pre-snap, every single wide receiver, how you can remember to use different moves, how you guys can execute moves, is you need to have a pre-snap process. You need to be able to identify what the DB's, it's 3 specific things. Number 1, what's the DB's leverage? Number 2, how close or how far he is. And then number 3, what type of coverage it is. So pre-snap process, right away, immediately, we see that this DB's inside leverage. So that means he has inside shade. His goal with that coverage, we know this by just identifying his leverage, is to protect the inside. Force everything to the outside, make the wide receiver run a fade and just take off and run and squeeze him to the sideline. That's his goal with this coverage. But also he doesn't want to get beat deep because he's an off man. And again, number 2, how close or how far is he? He's about, I would say, 7 to 8 yards away, inside leverage, and then it's obviously man coverage because his eyes are on me. So with my route, the mistake a lot of wide receivers make with inside leverage coverage is they just try to run away. But that's exactly what the DB wants you to do. He is trying to force you to his help. And I'm not talking about like safety help, linebacker help. I'm talking about the sideline. The sideline is an extra defender on the field. Even if you have a ton of speed, even if you are like, let's say you're just, a 4.4 guy, you're in high school, you're faster than every DB you play, and you're getting away with running around guys, what are you going to do when you face a DB who is just as fast as you are? You need some kind of technical advantage to get you separation. So that's what he decides to do on this. So he attacks his leverage to the inside, because when a DB has inside leverage, his goal is to protect that leverage. Do not let the wide receiver run a post, run a dig. Do whatever you can to force him outside. Do not get beat to the inside. So he's going to do whatever he can to protect that, but we can use that as a wide receiver to my advantage. If I stem to the inside, and stemming is essentially what I mean by attacking his leverage. That's like angling the stem of your route at the DB, aka attacking his leverage. So when we go at him here and we use this vertical set, so a vertical set is this like hard fake to the inside where you sell with your hips, sell with your shoulders. You could almost think of it like a rocker step, right? Like a rocker step would be where you come off and you do like a 1, you cut with the outside foot and then you cut with the inside. So it would be a 1-2, like kind of like a crossover at the top of the route. That's what a rocker step is. I wouldn't consider this a rocker step, but if it helps you think about it, that's completely fine as well. But they call it a vertical set. So you give him this set to the inside, sell like we're running a post, which is a route that he cannot give up based on his leverage. So it gets him to commit, but guess what that does? That gives the quarterback space to fade us open. This route is called a fade route for a reason, because we're trying to fade you out to the sideline, if you will. So we need to give my quarterback space to be able to do that. So many wide receivers run this fade and they are hugging the sideline. That is not enough space, fellas. And you see, this is an easy throw for the quarterback. He's got plenty of space to put this ball over your outside shoulder. And trust me, you guys, like when you're at the bottom of the numbers, you have a ton of room to the sideline, especially when you're on like a college-sized field. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. This is a great example of how to run a fade route versus this inside leverage off man coverage using a move called a vertical set. So any type of off coverage, fellas, that is how I would recommend to run a fade. Okay, so now this next route example here is going to be the same wide receiver. running a 10 to 12 yard dig route. So a 10 to 12 yard dig coming over the middle versus an inside shade press coverage DB. So number one, again, we have to have that pre-snap process. We identify the leverage of the DB. So it is the exact same leverage as the last clip. But the second thing is how close or how far he is. And we see that he is right up on the line of scrimmage. We're off the ball, so we maybe got a yard and a half of space. And he's obviously in man coverage, squatted stance, eyes are looking at me. So we know it's inside shade press coverage. So if I have to run a dig, so many wide receivers think just because it's an inside breaking route, like a dig, a post, maybe a curl, you got to take the inside release. That could be the furthest thing from the truth. There are probably certain routes where like you have to cross a DB's face, like maybe a drag, maybe like an over route where you can't necessarily take an outside release, but in this case, a dig, you want to take an outside release. And that's what I want to talk about here. So let's play this full speed. So this wide receiver attacks the DB inside, gets him to move, pushes up vertical, and works that great slip under or throw by move, if you will, to win on that dig route. So let's talk about it. Why does he decide to do this? So like we said, a disciplined DB, because at the end of the day, like, that's what we're trying to get you ready for. We're not trying to get you ready for some scrub DB who's just going to give up anything, who's just off the line, is just going to backpedal out of there and is going to let you do whatever you want with him. We're trying to get you ready for a disciplined DB, a DB who has been trained, a DB who has technique, a DB who knows what he's doing, right? And a DB who knows what he's doing is not going to fall for just like a quick fake to the outside and you try to cross his face and just hope and pray that we're faster than him and stack. He's going to do whatever possible to keep his leverage. So if you try to force this inside release, he's going to get hands on us, which disrupts timing with my quarterback and can disrupt spacing. Because think about it, you're lined up on the top of the numbers right here, right? Top of the numbers. You probably have a slot wide receiver, let's say, for example, who's running a, let's say he's running maybe a whip route. So you got a whip and then we have a dig from the outside. But if you get rerouted because you force this inside release, you could end up running into the whip and your dig can be covered by the dig and the pivot could be covered by one defender. That screws up spacing, and that is this guy's job in press coverage. His job is to get hands, to disrupt timing, and to reroute us so the spacing is off and the quarterback has to move on. That is the name of the game for him. So as a wide receiver, we don't want to force that. We don't want to play into his hand. We want to make him think that we're forcing it because that's what gets him to move, but that's what gives me a free release to the outside. So this wide receiver attacks his leverage. Same idea as the last example, but it's press now. So he attacks his leverage, gets him to move, so now he's got this free release to the outside. Now, this is where everybody's hesitant, and this is where it comes down to having a plan, but also being able to react. Because we talk a lot about, wide receivers having a plan off the line. You got to have a plan. You see this specific look, you should attack him this way on this route, etc., right? But a lot of the times the wide receiver position is based off of reaction. It's just about reacting as it is having a plan. So when we push up vertical, obviously, anytime I'm facing press coverage on any route, what should my goal be? My goal should be to stack this guy, right? So stack him. And what does stack mean for those of you that don't know? That's when this DB is trailing directly behind my hip. So like we're like direct, like stacked over the top of him. And we kind of have like a two-way go. You could give a fake in and go out. You give a fake out and go in. That's the hope, right? But what if the DB plays it well? What if I get to the break point and he is right here and I have to run an inside breaking route? That's why everybody's afraid to take that outside release because they're not, maybe they're not confident in their ability to stack. Maybe the DB's faster than them. You can still get separation. You just have to have the right technique. So this wide receiver, he reacts. He puts the brakes on, drops his hips, sits low so he could decelerate. And because he was selling fade up into the route, which means running fast, running with full stride, committing his pad level to the fade, we got that DB running hard. When we get that DB to open up and run, and we don't have any type of indicator like a raise of my pad level, a slowdown in speed, a chop in my stride, and I can just drop my hips with no indicator, not letting him know a break's coming, I am going to have the upper hand in terms of a reaction. Because again, at the end of the day, we have a specific landmark that we are breaking at. The DB is reacting off of us. So if we don't give away when we're going to be breaking, he's always going to be a step behind. It's just my job to sell it. So when we get to the break point, you see how he snaps this thing down, he slips back underneath, and you see how he has the right spacing. He can accelerate out of the break. The quarterback has an actual throwing window. He's not running into other receivers on the field. Now, I know it's one-on-ones, but we have to keep one-on-ones realistic. And this is textbook. That's exactly how you react at the top of the break, and that is exactly how you run a dig versus inside shade press coverage. Okay, let's play this thing full speed one more time. Great job attacking that DB's leverage, working upfield, and then slipping under with that great throw-by technique and finishing the play. Okay, so now let's talk about head-up press. So talked about inside shade, right? So this wide receiver is going to be running a post now, like a deep post, right? So ideally, whenever we get like head up press, so what is head up press? And that's a part of that pre-snap process, right? Anytime you're going up against man coverage, it's always about having a pre-snap process. So we come up to the line and we see what? We see head up press. So when he's in head up, I call it like you have a two-way release, right? I think personally head up press is the easiest press to beat because at the end of the day, you could release inside if you wanted to. You could release outside if you wanted to, and it's based on the route. Ideally, on a post route, a slant route, a dig, a post, ideally what release do we want? We want an inside release, right? So let's take an inside release. So that's part of that pre-snap process. We see that it's head up press. We know that. So with the releases that I choose, I should probably think, okay, I'm going to fake like I'm going to the outside, get him to jump and take that inside release. And my goal should be to stack him. So let's play at full speed. Let's see what this wide receiver does. So he comes off here, gives him a move, takes that inside release, able to fight the hands and stack, and you see the amount of separation that he is able to get. That is a great job taking that inside release and making the route realistic. So again, off the line, maybe not the greatest release in terms of selling it, but his feet are definitely fast. He's definitely threatening to the outside. He's stepping outside the DB's frame, giving a head and shoulder fake. And again, all it takes is just that DB to hesitate for a split second. You get his feet to die, it should be easy to run around him. Fight the hands, combat the hands, and get up over the top. Now, you see how he's able to stack. This is what I mean by stacking him. So that's easy money. You could run a corner, you could run a post, you could run a fade like this. Now, what if we don't stack in this situation? What if this DB stays like right on his hip all the way to the break point? We don't want to let him force me all the way to the inside and break. Because again, that can screw up spacing on the play. That can screw up timing with my quarterback. He's expecting me to break at a specific time. And I have to get to the specific spot that I'm required to get to at that time. So you do not want to let him just force you to the inside. You don't want to run super tall. You want to do something called getting skinny. Now, getting skinny can help you stack him, but it can also help you do something called that, I call it like a chicken wing move. Essentially, it's a way to push off without pushing off. So let's say this DB was stride for stride with me at the break point. If we start leaning my shoulder, leaning into him with my hip, at the break point, when I cut off of my right foot, I can almost give like a little nudge with my upper half because I'm leaning into him. And that could get me space. And meanwhile, because I was low, because I had a good pad level, I didn't get forced all the way to the inside. So fellas, that's how I would approach this route. This is how I teach guys to approach this route when you got that head up press. It's either way. Now, let's say he had to run like a 10-yard out. What would you probably do? You'd probably threaten to the inside, right? It's head up press. So you'd probably throw a fake inside, try to get him to move, try to get him to at least hesitate and take that free outside release. Work to stack, get skinny. So at the break point, you could either lean into him or we stack him and could give him a move at the top. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver beating that head up press coverage and then showing how to stack on that deep post route. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, we are coming out to 5 more states this offseason. All next 3 camps are completely sold out, but then we'll be heading out to Denver and Los Angeles. Those camps have spots available, but will sell out by the end of this month. So check out that very first link in the description below if you're interested, you guys. I'll see you next time.